Meanwhile, the humanitarian consequences have now become one of the biggest concerns in this entire crisis. Russia has been condemned again for their backhanded offer, cop this, to provide humanitarian corridors for fleeing refugees, corridors which go only one direction, Russia or Belarus. It is a bastardly act and highlights the ruthlessness of Putin's regime. So joining me now from Ukraine is Inna Sovsun, a member of Ukraine's parliament. Inna, thank you so much for joining us again our time this evening. It's morning where you are. Can you tell us what's it like after 12 days, coming into the 13th day under attack where you are?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I just heard what you were saying before about dependency on Russian gas and oil. And that is definitely something that we are extremely worried and working a lot on right now, because we do realize that if this war drags on, it will just cost us more and more casualties, more and more lives. I was just reading the reports from what has happened during the night. We are 9:28 in the morning here in Kiev. And they continue to bombard our cities, particularly in the eastern city of Sumy, and they continue to throw bombs onto the cities, including some of those which are forbidden to be used against the civilian population, like the vacuum bombs, the cluster bombs. They are doing unthinkable. You already mentioned the humanitarian corridor, which they promised to open, but just for Russia and Belarus. And everyone realizes that not a single person in Ukraine wants to go to either of those countries after what they have done to us. But they have been promising those humanitarian corridors for a city of Mariupol, which is southeast of Ukraine, for Irpin, which is like 20 kilometers northwest from Kiev. And what they did in Mariupol, they set up landmines into the place where people were supposed to gather to leave via the humanitarian corridor. Luckily, our military men and women just learned about that. They saw some signs that the landmines were there, and they just took people away. But in Irpin, they again promised a single green corridor for people to leave, and then they opened fire on people who were trying to escape, with 2 children dead. And the mother of the children was wounded, and she died later, a few hours after that, in the hospital. I was reading a post on Facebook from the man, the husband, the father, and I was just trying to imagine. It's impossible to imagine what that is feeling like. He had a family, he had a life. Just 2 weeks ago, they were, building their lives. And now all his family is dead. And that is what the Russians are doing. So it seems like that because their blitzkrieg plan have failed, and because their military strategy is apparently not working, because they cannot go any closer to the big Ukrainian cities that they want to capture. They were actually pushed further from Kharkiv. They were, even after the heaviest bombardment of the city, which is inhumane and impossible, and there should be a criminal tribunal about that. They can't get into Mariupol. They can't get into Mykolaiv. They can't get into Kiev. So because they cannot execute a single military strategy, they're just turning into those cruelties and atrocities against civilians.
These are atrocities. The way you describe them, Inna, they are the grossest atrocities we've heard so far. And I would have thought they are at odds with any kind of international rules of engagement in war and against everything that the United Nations stands for in terms of human rights as well. Do you want to see Russia punished for this?
Oh, yes. I want it punished. I want its economy crushed. I want the people of Russia to pay reparations for what they have done. But as of right now, what I want most of all is for this to stop. I really want to go home. I've been staying with my friends from the first day of war. I've only been at my place twice, just for a simple reason, because my home is on the high floor, and just going down the basement every time we hear the alerts that because Putin is trying to bombard Kyiv once again is just impossible. I want to be able to see my son, whom I haven't seen from the first day of war. I want to be able to see my boyfriend who is with the army, and I just hope that he will survive all of this. This is terrible what he's doing to us. And we want the tribunal, but that would be later. What we want right now is for that to stop. There are only two ways how this can be stopped sooner rather than later with less casualties. Is first of all, tougher sanction against Russia. I'm appalled by the proposal of the European Commission that they will consider phasing out Russian oil and gas. I'm sorry, what does phasing out mean? phasing out means that they will continue giving money to Russia for gas and oil as long as it is comfortable to them. They will continue to give them money with which they will be buying weapons and those damn bombs that they using to kill all of us here and our children. That is unacceptable. That is against everything that the Western world stands against. And I just can't believe that this is actually happening. And second thing that we are asking for so much is to provide us with support on the air. We are, of course, asking for a no-fly zone, but we are hearing this huge reluctance on the side of the NATO countries of doing that, claiming that this will get Russia in direct contact with NATO countries. But if that is the case, if the West is not willing to intervene directly, again, we are appalled. We do feel betrayed. But let us help us, save ourselves. Just give us the fighter jets, and Ukrainian pilots would be able to do that on our own. But just give us the fighter jets so that we can at least help on the sky, and then the Ukrainian army can continue to push them further into the Russian and Belarusian territory as they're doing right now.
Let's hope sooner rather than later, that actually happens, because Poland can give their Russian-made, ironically, fighter jets to Ukrainian pilots, and apparently the MiGs, the American MiGs, will then go to Warsaw, which I think is a decent plan, as long as you can get the planes safely into Ukrainian territory. Let's keep our fingers crossed that happens. You keep safe, and thank you once again for providing us with your time.
Thank you for your information. Thanks.
Thank you. Inna Sovsun. Wow. Some bastardry happening. Trapping Ukrainians, innocent Ukrainians, down paths of freedom which end up with their slaughter. Can you believe that? I think we can about now.